Introduce to you the members of the class of 2020. Margaret Schulte Amaral. Nassim M. Amir. Esther Apedo. Brianna Kelly Asbury. Erin Rozzy Baseman. James Joseph Smith Bennett. Raina Benz. Thomas Joseph Bosian. Krista Jenna Kazi. Calvin Welsh Caputo. Maxwell Devlin Caputo. In absentia, John Andrew Carroll. Emily Alexandra Antonacci Cavuto. Christopher Lane Cecilla. Valerie Giselle Cerna. Jalen Ahmad Champion Adams. Julia R. Chang. Andrew Decker Chickarone. Sophia Hannah Cohen. Alexandra Ann Denovi. Kevin Andrew Doherty. Kiera Lauren Douglas. In absentia, Evan William Dries. Armand Dugar. Carly Aaliyah Feldstein. Riley Kathleen Felcher. Brenna Van Sant Fisher. Alexander Ryan Frank. Zaya Gandhi. In absentia, Michaela Anna Gaydon. Alexandra Glezer. Stepan Nikolaevich Vorolenkov. Lucas Hayden Green. Caroline Elizabeth Haggerty. Charlotte Rose Haggerty. Alexis Lynn Hauscher. In absentia, Benjamin P. Hornick. Joseph Robert Hudica II. Adora Inyama. Madison Morrow Izzard. Ariana Jones. William Avery Jones. Arahant Call. Spencer Lawrence Nur. John F. Kopaz. Harini Krishnan. Carly Mia Kunkel. Julia Anna Lash. In absentia, Caitlin Elizabeth Lee. In absentia, Robert Matthew Lee. Eric Ka Leung. Emily Sarah Levine. Adalia Jacqueline Griffin Lee. Audrey Siang Liang. Catherine Arden Litkowski. George Ma. Margaret Ann Rose Madani. Tazi E. Majid II. Grace Eveline Marshall. Jomar Christopher Jordan Meekins. Justin Dean Mortman. Skylar Ruth Mundenar. In absentia, Ari Nagelberg. Aiden Janja Fasu. In absentia, Alan Victor Norcott. Reina Nikesh Pahade. Tulsi Hari. Sachin H. Patel. Joshua Ian Rafferty.
Let's go!
In absentia, Diana Ramirez. In absentia, Zoe Rivera. Gregoria Rodriguez IV. Ellie Catherine Schofield. Julia M. Sklove. Rena A. Sklove. Ankita Sen. David Sherman. Justin Sherman. Azaria Divinity Silas. Harjot Singh. Benjamin Elliott Seuss. Luigi Rafael Soriano. Chad Sprague. Hannah Yi Su. Annabelle Marshall Thomas. Mega Elizabeth Thomas. Audrey Kacharian Toscano. Krithika Vasareddy. Athena West. Tessa Jade Wu. Eyal Aran Yacobi. On this beautiful August morning on Cole Ross Lawn, the class of 2020.
Parents, relatives, friends of the class of 2020, Maggie, Tommy, and Eric, Mr. Rhodes, Dr. Friedman, Dr. Bushnell, my faculty colleagues, and members of the class of 2020, welcome to our school's 55th commencement. Highly anticipated for its delay, with just enough suspense and doubt to make it rich, fine, and deeply satisfying. We have made it to the Cole Ross Lawn, as revered a place on our campus as there is. It is in this pastoral shrine that we come to recognize commitment and hard work, perseverance and passion, empathy and enthusiasm. And among these boughs and bowers, we are brought together to celebrate and to contemplate as we revel in what is and consider what might have been. Commencement is for me the most mixed of events, for while its pomp and circumstance gladden the heart and quicken the pulse, its finality stirs in us something deeper and more enduring, the passing of time and the inevitability of change. But in ways other classes have not had to experience, you have become veterans of the inevitability of change. You have lived and breathed it, I hope with a mask on, and shaped it to your will. In hours and days stolen from you, you have taken them back and made them your own. You are different than when we last met, but you are no less Princeton Day School's children. You have secured yourselves a place in the annals of our school. As your class will be forever marked by so much of what was beyond your control, I will add to that list another happy note. You are the first student group to return to our Great Road campus since March 6th. 150 days of exile have ended for us, and we return to this promised land to renew our commitment to our school and the lives we will lead here. For months we have wondered and worried what it would be like to return. With your strong voices and hearts, you have answered all of our worries and placed them to the side. As you have done for 4 years, you have chosen to lead us once again. And I, for one, am happy once more to follow your example. 150 days were too many, and yet the sacrifice we have endured together during that time is redeemed by your presence here. You have restored our campus to us, and we need never again to be afraid to be in this most beautiful place. Though you have given much to our school, your greatest gift will surely be that you have returned Princeton Day School to those who will live and linger here after you are gone. I thank you for that. Now, it's been a little less than 2 months since we offered our virtual goodbyes and recollections. And though much has changed in that time, your indelible mark on our school has not. From the days of your infancy in the 9th grade to the mastery you achieved through your senior year, you have distinguished yourselves at every turn, and in doing so, you have brought honor to your school and to your family. And although this awful virus continues to hold sway above and around us, even its grasp was not strong enough to keep your family from being here today, though they are smaller in number than we would have liked. To say to you once more how much they love you and how proud they are of you. Your parents, grandparents, guardians, and guests join with and surround you today in this happiest of moments, in this most beautiful place. They have dreamed of this moment since you were born, though realizing that dream may have seemed very far off in March and in April and May and June and even July. And while the fates may have conspired to keep us apart, even they were no match for the love of those who surround you today. While at some point in May or June your thoughts turned to college life and all of its glories, your parents held out for unfinished business, the proper celebratory finish to your Princeton day school careers. Hoping against hope, they waited patiently and occasionally sent me an email to make sure that the journey which began for each of you was brought to its fitting conclusion. They have kept faith with you always, and the proof of that faith is revealed in our being here this morning. Thank you to them as well. And so as I close, I remind you of one more thing. One morning in late April, we gathered together so that I could deliver disappointing news. Your June graduation on this spot would not take place. Difficult as that moment was, I remember it for another reason. The promise we made together to gather on this broad lawn and celebrate this event. Let us always remember that promise we made to one another, and let us always remember the day we honored it. Congratulations to you all. As you know, it is a tradition at Princeton Day School that the seniors elect a member of their class to give an address at commencement. In keeping with the spirit of this class, they have chosen well and chosen two, Maggie Madani and Tommy Bosian. First Maggie and then Tommy.
Thank you, Mr. Stellato. How many times do you think you've heard the word unprecedented in the past 4 months? Don't worry, that's the only time you'll be hearing it come out of my mouth today. Every single person in here has been struggling with some kind of burden over these past few months, now more than usual. Whether it's as a small business owner or from the color of your skin, a sickness, your religion, what have you. So consider the next couple of minutes as a time to escape while I bring you all back to a blissful time of ignorance, lower school. Now, for those of you who remember, whatever happened to that other song? You know, I go to PDS because it is the best. What happened to that song, and why do you still know all the words? Honestly, I bet if that song we sang every Thanksgiving, people might actually know the words. But lower school here really was the best. How many schools do you know that get to skate for their PE class? I loved skating, but even more than skating, I loved hanging out with Sachin in our 4th grade classroom while everyone else was at the ice rink because Sachin had too much of an arch in his foot to skate and I had no arch at all. And so we'd sit there hanging out by the computers, playing cool math games. But this is only one reason why PE in the winter was superior to run across America in the fall and spring. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Run Across America was our PE class in 3rd and 4th grade. In those 2 years, during every PE class, you would run laps around the gym, so that eventually you would have run 3,000 miles as if you had run across America. And obviously, I have to give a special shout out to Adelia, who ran across America and back as she totaled 6,000 miles. But even before Run Across America, winter was the superior season for PE, because unless you are Azaria, who could instantly drop into a split to avoid Tommy's chaotic throws in games like Pirate Ball, then you were out of luck. But chaos is lower school. For example, when the huge fundraising water jugs filled with loose change were stolen, or when we had to have a grade meeting to put an end to silly bands, as well as the cheese touch, #NotMyRoderick. But the real rude awakenings came in middle school. Middle school is where we learned about big storms and Big Willie, and that they actually make 6-inch rulers. It's where some of us learned math through origami and the terror of public speaking through our focus speeches. This is when we move from playdates to fun night, to dances to going to town. Middle school is a time of exponential growth where we constantly push the boundaries. For example, when Raina tried to turn in a poem that ended with the Vine famous Rick Ross quote, "Shout out to all the pears." But then high school came along and we got a little more serious. Evan went from disassembling pens to building keyboards, and yet it still feels like we're in middle school as we chant Evan to come fix a smartboard anytime it doesn't work. And Evan, sometimes we actually do the chant when you're not even there. But even the sports we played for fun in middle school, we now also play to win championships. And people like Sophie, who began their photography journey through their phone, became award-winning photographers. And many others, like Spencer, became greatly accomplished writers. Liam and Gregorio came back to us among many new friends-to-be as we frantically prepared for life after PDS. We still had fun, though. We had our beach cleanup service trip that Zaya and Krithika so graciously put together, and we have an amazing video to remember it by, thanks to Aaron and Evan. We also had some hilarious PSA videos made for the class, specifically the pregnancy video where Ben revealed his acting skills. We also had some of the most creative promposals, thanks to Jalen, who set that high bar. Many of us have grown up together, but many of us feel like strangers after all of this time apart. But I hope I may have been able to remind you of some of the great memories and friends that PDS gave us. Whether we stay in touch or not, there's no denying that some of the moments we had here together were great. I don't know about you all, but for me, these funny little moments are a huge part of the reason for why I'm here today. On stressful days, filled with tests and projects, people like Zoe would remind me that everything was going to be okay. And that is why that even on the worst days, I enjoyed coming to PDS. So even though we are here to celebrate everyone's individual success in graduating, I'd like to say thank you all, because each and every one of you had a part in creating the community that made me want to spend these last 14 years here. And now I'm pleased to introduce your other elected graduation speaker, Tommy Boshin.
The first time I visited PDS was in the spring of 2007 for that vaunted kindergarten interview of countless speeches past. I went into Colross, counted some blocks, and emerged triumphantly, joining my mom for the walk out to the car. We opened that heavy wood door, turned right, and stopped dead. Standing on the roof of our gold Toyota minivan was a turkey. Momentary awe morphed into frustration as we realized that we had to get the turkey off the car in order to go home. My mom clapped and screamed, Characteristically hangry, I decided to repeatedly yell, "Happy Thanksgiving!" The turkey finally jumped down after about 20 minutes and several suggestions that we drive away with it still on the roof. My family thinks this event was the gods warning PDS about what they were in for over the next 13 years. Lower school went relatively smoothly, save for some antics at the pond. After Jomar told me the truth about Santa Claus in Mrs. Cookie's first grade classroom, we watched Jalen grow taller than Devlin by second grade and heard rumors of a field house in 4 years. In third grade, we were present for the start of the longest undefeated streak in the history of New Jersey high school football, which of course remains active to this day. In PE class twice a week, Mrs. Gallagher gave way to Coach Higgs, a true PDS legend. Soon enough, I, a boisterous young Giants fan, became Bosian, and for the first time, began to take pride in my likewise outsized personality, just in time for middle school. We left middle school, and Mrs. Zarzecki's phone ringing at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier behind, entering Shepherd 96 freshmen strong. We won our first Halloween parade. Mr. Ash confused David and Justin Sherman during every single math class. Nobody followed the new dress code, and in a suspicious coincidence, just months after Tyrone's heroic arrival to the campus center, the slices of meatloaf suddenly became substantially thinner. The first day of sophomore year, though, kicked off a chaotic year. I walked into class meeting and discovered that several of my classmates had decided not to return. 10th grade was also Mr. Robinson's final year, and days after we won another Halloween parade, Josh and Rena made sure to make it one to remember. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Madani's eternal status as PDS's chief weatherman was challenged when, in the forecast, there appeared a great storm. We went through 3 class presidents and set the single-year record for judiciary cases, something I doubt will ever be broken. In the spring of 2019, things finally appeared to have calmed down. We'd won our 3rd consecutive Halloween parade, quit all our clubs because there was no more pizza at the meetings, realized that Tommy Davis wasn't our classmate, and survived Q's 75th career concussion. Yes, we had squandered Dr. Manzulli's second promise of a class party, and the rumors of the field house had at last come to fruition, 1 year too late for us to be able to use. But our incredible president, Eric Leung, had us under control, and Riley Felsher led us to an impressive powder puff victory on Blue and White Day. And most importantly, Mr. Stellato returned from beating cancer. This sense of calm was so pervasive that in August, I began to hope that my senior year would be a little more normal than the last 2. I was actually thinking this en route to Yankee Stadium for Yankees Red Sox. And just so Mrs. Brisky, Mr. Friedholm, and Coach Thomas know, the Yankees won. I exited the subway car, crossed the street, got onto the security line, and promptly ran into Harjop. After that, I decided to cast aside any hope of a normal senior year. Turns out I was right to do so. We completed the unprecedented Halloween parade sweep. Cal won his 2nd consecutive fantasy football championship and still hasn't stopped talking about it. We drove poor Mr. Ash and Mr. Rubens into retirement, then gave Mr. Rhodes a standing ovation when he was announced as the next head of upper school. We gave Cicilla about 5 more after his legendary overtime winner against Lawrenceville. Then, on March 6th, we left for spring break. Our senior year ended in about as much time as it took Tony Soprano to look up from his onion rings. Out of all the classes at PDS, the class of 2020 is the oddity, the one that started off with 96 and wound up with 91. Of course, we couldn't have graduated without another controversy. This time, classmates straddled the line of student and alum to lead this community in meaningful reckoning on issues of race. We have all been forced to question every second of our PDS experiences, drawing important lessons from our education to drive us forward into a more tolerant, just society. In thinking about these issues, I have become even more proud of this class and its legacy. We certainly made our fair share of mistakes, but there were moments where we got into good trouble too, which we should always be proud of. Even through these surreal past few months, we had the courage to steadfastly remain our authentic selves, refusing to be labeled the class of coronavirus. Much like the turkey I encountered nearly 14 years ago, we never jumped down. And consequently, no one will ever forget us. Thank you, teachers, parents, administrators, and especially Tyrone. Congratulations to the great PDS class of 2020.
As you know, the seniors elect a member of the faculty to deliver an address at commencement each year. Here to introduce our faculty speaker is Senior Class President Eric Leung. Eric?
All right, thank you, Tommy, for those beautiful words. Next up, I'm extremely excited to present our grades faculty speaker, Dr. Friedman. Dr. Friedman has been a history department faculty member throughout all of our years in the upper school and has taught many of us, whether it was in 9th grade world religions, 10th grade American history, or more recently, an intro to philosophy. Throughout the past year in my economics class, I've thoroughly enjoyed being next door to Dr. Friedman's philosophy class, as there would always be laughter and lively discussion spilling over from their side of the shared wall. Sometimes we'd even pause class just to speculate how fun his class must be. And whether it's being a friendly face to anyone entering the history wing, or just tirelessly helping to oversee our school newspaper, The Spokesman, Dr. Friedman is a cherished and integral member of our school community. Once again, it is my great pleasure to introduce our grades faculty speaker, Dr. Friedman.
Good morning and congratulations to the class of 2020. I would first like to thank Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Stellato, and Dr. Bushnell for coordinating today's remarkable event. We stand today on an island in time. Today is the day that nearly never was, unmoored from a calendar we once knew that felt so stable and so sure. In a different year, this commencement would be a simple but momentous day of pride and joy, of mothers and fathers and daughters and sons, of teachers and students and friends, and of classmates and one another. But for you, the class of 2020, this day is all of these things and more. Your commencement is a day of defiance in the face of those circumstances that have conspired against you. For distanced though we may be, we yet gather as one on this beautiful morning. In facing the novelty of this day, I have found myself frozen time and again in composing my thoughts. Earlier this summer, I received a call from Dean Manzulli letting me know that I would have the honor of serving as commencement speaker for the class of 2020. It is an honor for which I am deeply grateful. At the time, Dr. Manzulli explained that due to the spread of COVID-19, an in-person graduation was unlikely, and I was simply to record a 2-minute video for you, the graduates, and your families. In that video, I shared 2 messages. The first was a plea to trust in yourselves and what you have learned during your time at the day school. The second was a reminder that each of you is deeply cared for by a great many people. These are the truths I sought to impart with my 2 minutes, and I hope you do not forget them. But today I have 5 minutes, and I would share with you something more. Just over 2 years ago, my son Ari was born. My life up to that point had been driven by 2 engines. I wanted to be successful in my career, to be knowledgeable and capable in the classroom, and I wanted to make the world just a bit better in doing so. These were not, I think, unreasonable goals. But the arrival of my son shifted my center of gravity. All at once, my days were not about what I wanted, but about giving Ari a better future and a better life than I could dream. Barack Obama once described parenthood as your heart walking around outside your body. And if I have felt that love, that joy, that anxiety so very much in these past 2 years, I cannot imagine what your parents must be feeling on this poignant day. But the painful truth, the stark realization, is that I cannot simply give Ari that better life, that better future. I cannot craft it for him and hand it over. I am slated only to prepare him for it as best I can and to watch from the sidelines as he seeks it for himself. And this, I think, is where parenting and educating collide. For just as your teachers have cared for you, they have sought to shape you and to guide you, that you might thrive and make this world better for yourselves and the generations which will follow you. We cannot do the work for you, no one can. Instead, we must prepare you as best we can and watch as you, our hearts multiplied over and over and over, leave this place to build something more. This has been the enormity of our task, as you have traipsed from history and English classrooms to art studios and science labs. If we have taught you to read the world around you but not to question it, then we have failed you. If we have taught you to write your stories but not to relate with others, then we have failed you. If we have taught you to experiment in physics and chemistry but not to serve others with what you have learned, then we have failed you. It is a plain and simple fact that your words, your art, your music, your inventions, your designs, and your stories will be the fabric of our lives in the months and years ahead. What you do with them will mean quite literally everything for us. And so, as you leave this place, these are my messages for you. Trust in yourselves, know that you are loved, and be amazing. I do not know what the months ahead will bring, no one does. What I do know is that in the years ahead, you, the class of 2020, will make our world kinder, more beautiful, and more just. And when you come back to visit, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, I would love nothing more than to hear all about it. Thank you, and congratulations once more to the class of 2020.
To offer a greeting from the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Rebecca Bushnell, PDS Class of 70.
So class of 2020, it's such a pleasure to see you and your families this morning. It's the real you as we honor your graduation from Princeton Day School. Your class has risen to so many challenges in the past 5 months, meeting disappointments and deferrals with creativity, humor, and courage. And I want to thank you all for everything you did to help each other through this crisis by forging community in new ways. I also want to thank the parents and the families here for their unflagging support of these amazing graduates and for sticking by the school too in these extraordinary times. So class of 2020, very soon you're going to be headed off to the next exciting stage of your lives. So whatever you plan to do in the coming year, it will be different from what you imagined it to be back in February. But I know that strengthened by your PDS education and supported by friends and family, you will once again rise to the occasion and create opportunities to learn, to form new relationships, and to begin to make a difference in the world. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to again congratulate you and to wish you all the very best as you embark on that adventure.
So our time together is at an end. This journey, which seems so long and so difficult, has resolved itself on this beautiful day, and we are together as we should have been. I will ask our seniors to rise. Dr. R. Congratulations, Chris. That was great.